Sahanam bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today, last time, I believe you all broke up into small groups, and today is the big group discussion. Who has the first question?
Janki, sorry, just to inform you, two of the people who originally asked the question were not available today, so their group members are adopting the question. And one monitor isn't available, so even that has changed.
Wow, that is rather irresponsible. Everybody is aware, right, that after small GD is big GD? Everyone is aware of that, isn't it? Imagine that, we're so, you can remove this at the moment, Omkar. We talk in Vedanta about service. Can you even imagine what would be our condition when we are forcing other people to serve us? Instead of rising up to a level where we can anticipate people's needs and fulfill them, we don't do what we are supposed to do in the first place. This is a rather sad thing. So, if everybody is aware how the big and small GDs go, how can it be possible that the questioner and the monitors are not there for the big one? That means, I think, I'm assuming now that Bharat tells me that he has found other monitors and questioners. So basically, what does it mean? You force him to spend his whole Sunday morning trying to figure out now who will adopt the question, who will be the monitor. Isn't this rather disgraceful for us as Vedanta students? It's really quite a sad thing that we can be, so negligent about it. Say, no, but that was an emergency. Okay, then you find somebody to substitute. Don't throw the whole thing on Bharat to do, which of course Bharat will do because he's quiet and he's service oriented, and whatever anybody else doesn't do, he picks up and he does. But it's very, very sad that this thing happens. It's quite a failure on the part of these classes that we are so irresponsible about these things. Sad. Okay, so let's take the first group then. Somebody has adopted the question, somebody is the monitor. Where is the monitor?
So Deepa, I'm the monitor.
Go ahead then. What are we waiting for?
Oh, the original questioner is Naeem. He's not present today, so I'm adopting the question.
Okay.
As Gnana Yogis, what are the obstacles we face in our spiritual sadhana, and how do we overcome them? We could not arrive at a.
Okay. So, as Jnana Yogis, what are the obstacles we face in our spiritual sadhana and how do we overcome them? The biggest obstacle is, of course, for a Jnana Yogi has to always be desire, ego. So how does that function on your path? It functions in the path as I know. This concept that I know, you can remove it now. I think everybody has the question. The concept that I know is the biggest deterrent to knowledge. Because it's quite frightening actually when you think about it. What you don't know, you don't ever know that I don't know this. So the whole process of knowledge actually is a very difficult thing, because we have to first learn that we don't know, and having learned that we don't know, then we have to learn whatever it is we have to learn. Then the second way this works on in our path is we are more happy to defend our faults than to correct them. So Richard Bach says, a very nice statement he has, make excuses for your faults and you get to keep them. You make excuses for your faults and you get to keep them. So ego is the biggest problem in the Jnana Yoga path. I don't know why you have chosen Jnana Yoga as if the other two are well known, but whatever it is, since the question is Jnana Yoga, we should handle Jnana Yoga. So the biggest problem with Jnana Yogis is ego. It is the arrogance of knowledge. And in the arrogance of knowledge, you don't learn more and you do not accept your faults. All the time, you're more concerned with how other people are doing things wrong rather than what am I doing wrong. So what is the biggest obstacle in Jnana Yoga is ego. Ego manifests as arrogance of knowledge. Means arrogance of knowledge is also a very strong term. It is the ignorance, which since I don't know that I don't know. Suppose there's a subject in this world that I don't know about. How can I want to know that subject? I don't know it is, right? So similarly, I'm at a certain level of spiritual development. From where I am, I can see a certain amount. In that certain amount, I can see good and bad and all of that within that band, let us say. But I don't know that the band itself is a wrong thing. I mean, wrong thing means it's a limited thing. There are many, many higher bands. So ignorance that we don't know is unknown to us. Our own ignorance is unknown to us. And so if it's unknown, how will we proceed? So that's a problem. The other problem is coming from that only is we just make excuses for our faults if at all we see them. If I'm a hot-tempered person, I will say, of course, anyone will get angry if somebody behaves like that. If I'm a possessive, jealous person, I'll say, if anyone behaves like that, obviously people will react. No, not obviously at all. You can deal with the situation without anger, without possessiveness, without anything. Is that okay, Omkar?
Yes, but I remember Swamiji mentioning complacency as one of the biggest obstacles on the spiritual path, not specifically for the Jnana. I would imagine that to be probably an even bigger issue, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. The absence of knowledge of the higher makes you feel satisfied with what you have now. That's called complacency. It's not different. It's the same point. It manifests in Jnana Yoga as I don't need more knowledge. I already know enough. It's not a different point. It's the same point. Complacency works in karma, it works in bhakti, it works in jnana, it works in different ways. Complacency means I'm satisfied with something I should not be satisfied with. So in jnana yoga, I'm satisfied with my knowledge, which I should not be not satisfied with because
I haven't reached realization.
very good, because I haven't reached realization. That's why what am I satisfied about? I can only say, oh, my knowledge is better than yours. I know so much more than you. That's all I can say. No?
So complacency and ego is the same thing, or complacency or ego leads to complacency, or how does that work?
No. Complacency is a sense of satisfaction. Okay, when you have that sense of satisfaction about my knowledge, you can have that sense of satisfaction about anything, right? So when it refers back to something of your own, then it's ego. What is ego? Ego is your attribution to something to yourself. Complacency is a satisfaction with things you ought not to be satisfied with. So when you are saying my knowledge is enough, I understand enough, very easily seen with people who are not in the spiritual path, because they will tell you, what are you going to learn Bhagavad Gita? Everybody knows these things. They poo-poo it, they carpet it, right? So that is clear to us. But that we ourselves are doing the same thing is not clear to us. And it's difficult. See, Arun has been studying the Gita now for 20 odd years. How wouldn't it be easy for him to say how much I know? Because 20 years I've done it. And he's not done it means he's not just attended classes. He has got up in the morning, he studied, he's had a corporate job, he's been placed in different parts of the world, all sorts of things. But he has, with a fair degree of regularity, done his morning studies. Now, surely today he can say, I know Vedanta, I know what the Gita says. And we would all agree. We would say, yeah, when you put in the effort, you would be doing. And yet, if he falls into that trap, which luckily he doesn't fall into, but he could so easily do that, right? I mean, nothing particular about Arun. Any one of us can fall into this trap. You say, I've worked for Vedanta, I've studied Vedanta, done everything, now I know it. Then we have to remember the wise words of Ashya. Simple question, are you realized? If you're realized, you're done. If you're not realized, still some journey to be undertaken. So complacency is the feeling of satisfaction that I get. I could get satisfied, right? Saying, oh, I did it for so many years. I studied, I did my karma, I did this, I did that. Look at me, I'm so great. When that complacency is attached to something attributing to myself, that's ego.
Thank you.
Bharat, is one still on the jnana path if ego is still prevalent? Isn't humility a quality of a jnani? Yes, humility is given as a quality of jnani. It is the first quality given of a jnani. And that should tell us why. Why do they say humility is a quality of a jnani? Jnani means a person of wisdom. So why do they say a knowledgeable person, a wise person? It begins with that quality. Doesn't it indicate something? What it's indicating is, buddy, watch it. Step one, is your humility there or not yet? So the ego is prevalent in everybody. That is why we are not realized. There is nobody here devoid of ego. The only person devoid of ego is a person of realization. So ego we will have. Desires we will have. Because we have ego and desires, therefore we are on this path. Right? It's like we've come to a hospital because we are sick. If we weren't sick, why would you go to a hospital? So we are sick. So we've come. So that is common. But when the ego inhibits our further growth, that's when the problem starts. Inhibits it means reduction of ego is the growth, but ego is itself the barrier. That's where the problem lies. So in the bhakti path, for instance, what is the problem with bhakti? In bhakti, ego is not the problem. You see, the bhaktas are quite, humble about things. There are jnanis who tend to put their head up. So the bhakti people are, you go to any nice religious institution, the nice people, nice, sweet people, they talk to you sweetly, they'll not, very sweet, very nice, very loving, very affectionate. So ego is not really their problem in life. Ego comes with knowledge. The problem of the bhakti people is what?
So that they don't question.
They don't need to. The problem with the bhakti people is that their love gets restricted quickly. They're very loving, but you try to say something against their God and they'll become a devil. So that's why the qualities of bhakta start with
It's no being.
it's no being. Because that's the problem for them. Them means for us. When it's not like we are jnanis and they are bhaktas. No such thing. We're all up doing all three yogas. But in our emotional side of our personality, we start restricting our love. We say, no, not that person, not that person. That person is like this, that person is like this. The emotional side of our personality talking. So he begins with humility because that's the first problem. When knowledge comes, the head rises. Shanti, Shanti. Okay, so yes, so you're right. Humility is a quality of a jnani. So he measures it based on humility. Measures your knowledge based on humility. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane. Who is a Brahman? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. One who has Vidya, knowledge, Vinaya, humility. He is a Brahman. He is a wise person. Okay, Bharat?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
So who? Gopal. Every time I read the Gita, I get different messages from the holy scriptures. So what it takes to make sure that we understand the Gita completely. Yes, you're right. Every time you read it, you will understand so much more. In fact, in your first reading, you'll think, okay, I finished reading the Gita. That's why traditionally we say this is the beginning of my study. We say it at the end of every chapter. Every time you finish any Vedanta text, you have to read again the first verse to symbolize the fact that this is not the end. When you read a normal book, you say, okay, I finished the book. You can't finish the Gita. You can't finish the Upanishads. You go back and read Mandukya Upanishad. You go for a full toss each time. You say, okay, I got it. So it's not very complicated. We're doing it in the Vedanta Treatise class. And we're doing 3 states of consciousness. Mandukya Upanishad says there are 4 padas to Brahman. Not 4 padas means 4 feet, 4 parts. And he says the 4 parts are waking, dream, deep sleep, and turiya, 4 parts. Because Brahman contains all of this. Nothing very complicated. It's like it's in the seems so simple. I mean, like, why? And then you go there and you sort of delve in it further and further, and you're like, what happened here? How did I manage to miss all this the first time? So every time I read the Gita, I get different messages from the Holy Scriptures. Yes, as we grow, we'll read more into it. We just start seeing it so differently. So what it takes to make sure that we understand the Gita completely? What does it take to understand the Gita completely? Self-realization. When you have realized the self, you'll have understood the Gita, you'll have understood the Upanishads, you'll have understood the Bible, the Quran, the Dhammapada, the Zendavasta, you'll have understood it all. Just takes realization. But until then, there's a strong recommendation to do the Vedanta Foundation course, because at least the basic concept should be clear. Otherwise, you're building up on not a solid base. So I hope everybody has done or is doing or hopes to do the Vedanta Foundation course, so that at least all basic concepts at least are, there's no debate on some basic level of understanding. Because if you get that, then you can read anything else you want. But at least the basics should be well in position. Okay, Gopal?
Yes, thank you, Janki.
Deepak?
Hariom, Janki ji, there was a follow-up from both the questions that came up. Sometimes as one goes through multiple readings or cycles of the Gita, one gets a feeling that you really don't know anything. The more you read, sometimes one gets the feeling. Is that the ego playing up as false humility, or is that normal in pursuit of any subtle knowledge, to get the feeling that maybe there is a much longer way to go than you may have first anticipated when you first came in contact with the knowledge?
Unfortunately, Deepak, that is just the way the cookie crumbles. In the first, when we joined the academy, and we thought 3-year course, right? Okay, we are really smart students. We'll get this in 2 years. Why should we have to do 3 years? And after 6 months, say, okay, chalo, 3 years, so I think it will require. Then you finish your course, you say, okay, I'll stay another couple of years. It'll help. And then after those years, you think, okay, I just figured out this is my life now. There's no getting away from it. It's going to be a long thing. So in our lives, really, as we learn how far we are away. Okay, so that is the result of knowledge. Then the emotions that start because of it are the result of the ego. So knowledge tells us that it seems like there's a long way for me to go. So far, so good. Then I start saying, oh, I'm not good enough. I've not got this yet. I am whatever. It starts relating it back to oneself. If it does that, then it's the ego. If it stops at saying, there's lots to understand, then that's just knowledge telling you a fact of life. There is a lot to understand. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Sahadev Menon.
Yes, Janki.
Yeah.
The little confusion here between Jnani and Jnana Yogi. Normally, Jnani is supposed to be already self-realized. So, I mean, I don't know. When we say Jnani, that means there's no question of humility or ego or anything like that, because he doesn't act, once he's self-realized. So there's no sadhana for him, or he continues doing sadhana?
Sadhana, wait, too many questions, Sanjay. Firstly, is there a difference between jnana yogi and a jnani? Now, these are just words. It all depends on which context you use it. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, it uses it differently. At one stage, jnani means a self-realized soul. In another state, in another context, jnani means somebody involved in knowledge. We're like two ends of the spectrum, right? So what that word means is a matter of what context it is being used. Now, your other question about does a self-realized person do nothing? No, of course not. Krishna is driving Arjuna's chariot. He's making all this stuff going on. So self-realized people, of course they work. In fact, they say that work is essential for life. So there's no question of them not working. Why do we say they are non-acting? We claim non-action for them because in this, it's a particular usage in Vedanta. Actionless means desireless, means thoughtless, means vasanaless.
Right.
So it doesn't refer to not acting. It refers to not having vasanas. Because obviously Rama acted, right? He fought a big war himself. Or if you claim that no, Krishna only drove a chariot, well, that's still acting, but he was a karta karvita. He was the one who was making everything happen. And also, excuse me, Rama himself fought the war. So they're definitely acting. And then third part of your question, I hope I've kept track of all of them, is do they do sadhana? What does the word sadhana mean? Sadhana comes from sadhan. Sadhan means tool. Sadhana is a tool to achieve self-realization. So why would they use a tool to achieve self-realization if they've already self-realized? They won't, right? So they don't know any sadhana. There's no question of sadhana.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See. Overcoming these obstacles. Is it morning study or more? Meera, yes, you're right. Overcoming every obstacle is morning study. Morning study is the most important thing because that develops discrimination. But if you're doing your sadhana, if you're undertaking the spiritual path, then you have to do the whole lot. You have to do jnana yoga, morning study, classes, reading. You have to do bhakti yoga, direct your emotions towards the Lord of your heart, karma yoga, charity. All of these things have to be done. How much are we givers in life? If you are not able to be a giver, you cannot be on the spiritual path. So first we have to learn material giving. Then we learn physical giving. Like physical giving means giving of our service, giving of our time. All of this is part of the sadhana. So everything we need to do. It's not like you can, suppose you want to be fit, for instance. So say, okay, first you please control what you eat. But you don't leave it at that, right? Then you also have to do exercises. You also have to sleep properly. You also have to keep your mind peaceful. There are many elements to this. So if you're doing sadhana, if you really want our spiritual growth, if we are here for that, then we need to do it all. So what is overcoming the obstacles? It is morning study. It is also doing the other yogas. It's the whole lot of it. Okay, Meera?
Yeah, thank you, Janki ji.
Rajneesh, not sure why everyone is after self-realization. Rajneesh, first sentence is incorrect. I've not read the rest. I don't know what it is. Not sure why everyone is after self-realization. Can I please adjust the statement and say, not sure if anyone is after self-realization? We may read Gita with a perspective to improve our relations and life. Just a thought. Yes, most people come to religious life for anything other than self-realization. hardly anyone, if we were to ask, we will never ask such questions in class. How many people in this class today want self-realization? Not a soul will raise their hands. And if one or two people actually raise their hands, then I will consider myself blessed. Blessed to be in the company of people who have such a noble idea. So nobody is after self-realization. If people were all after self-realization, we would have to have a bigger Zoom account. Our Zoom account is for 100 people. Have we ever crossed this 100? Have we, rarely we cross half that figure also. Zoom should give us special discount because we're not using their 100. So nobody is interested in self-realization, Rajneesh, and that is the tragedy. Because if we were interested in self-realization, we wouldn't need to learn how to improve our relations. That would happen immediately. We wouldn't learn how to how to make enough money. That would just happen. You could just think of this person who can conceive something like self-realization. Just conceive it. Would he be fighting with his spouse? Would he be denying people around him or her anything that is rightfully, justfully theirs? He would err more on the side of being a giver than on the side of being a taker. Like Desdemona is describing, beautiful description. She thought it a vice in her virtue not to give more than she was asked. We have the LMS going. And in the LMS, we said, please, everybody, little donation. We want to put up a university, give some donation. You know how many people give a donation of 1 rupee? You wouldn't give that to a beggar. And yet people do 1 rupee. So there's no problem. I mean, it's available freely. You don't even have to give a single rupee. But is it really all you can afford, 1 rupee? I don't know. Is it just lack of respect for the knowledge? Is it lack of value for the knowledge? The knowledge is freely available. Everybody here, nobody is taking a single cent for it. But how much do we want to give it? Want to give something for building up a system whereby more people understand this. Excuse me. So that, that, I don't know what, that miserliness in us, I don't want to give anything, I don't want to do anything. That is what causes problems in relationships. That is what causes problems in work. Because, look at this group discussion also. You just ask a question, disappear. You become a monitor, disappear. Monitor means you've taken responsibility, no? So then did you even take the trouble to find another monitor? I mean, so irresponsible. How will these people do well at work? How will they do well in relationships? But if you're dedicated, the other things just happen automatically. You have to improve relations and life. Yes, of course, this knowledge will help you do that. But it's like, I don't know, it's like somebody has offered you a 3-tiered cake and you just touch your finger to it. Okay, but the whole cake is yours, take it. No. So Rajneesh, not sure why no one is after self-realization. I would love to change your question. We may read the Gita with a perspective to improve our relations and life. Yes, we read it. We go to gods, we go to temples. For what? In the hope of getting our desires fulfilled. That's what everyone's doing. So I'm not sure what your question was, but anyway, I commented on it for what it's worth.
Thank you, Janki. Thank you.
Okay, so are we done with the first question? We seem to have traveled the whole world with it, but are we done with it? Can we go on to the second one?
So Rajneesh had the question. question was how to practice Gita teachings in our daily life. And we did not have an answer.
Oh, why did you not have an answer?
We interpreted it in different ways, Shankiji. So someone wrote uh, an answer based on exactly what the question is, and rest wrote it as Vedanta students, how do you practice it? So in the end, we could not arrive at a collective answer.
That's interesting. So then what did you all do? Just had no consensus and life was over. Okay, so
No, by the time we debated on this, the time was up, and so 1 hour was finished, so we had to end.
okay, important question. Important question. What did you all debate on?
We debate. Yeah, please.
Sorry, Bharat, you can continue.
No, Manoj, please carry on.
Yeah,
He's
so
very happy to let this go from him. Don't worry. We debated on.
Janki ji, there were two types of answer. One was we should follow.
No, just tell me what you debated on. You debated on the answers, on the various points.
We debated on 2 points. One was the answer was we should.
No, wait, stop. Don't go any further. I don't need any more information. This is where the error took place. When you have two different sets of answers, your debate has to be on. Yeah, go ahead, Natalie. Your debate should have been on
One answer.
Mm-hmm. Your debate should have been on what is the question? Correct, Hema. The question. Don't debate answers. Debate the question. What is the person trying to ask? If you go back to the question, you don't need to debate the answers. You will know what the answers, which one is relevant to the question. Yes, correct, Nani. The question. Find out what is the question. Because obviously you all are interpreting the question differently. So never will it happen that you all will agree on the answer, because one has interpreted it in X manner and one has interpreted it in Y manner. So let's go back to Rajneesh and ask him, Rajneesh was the questioner, right? So what exactly were you looking for? When you say how to practice the teachings, were you looking for what exactly do you mean? How do you practice the teachings? Because Rajneesh also has been studying with us for some time. He knows that you have to do morning study. He knows that you have to do the 3 yogas. So what exactly is he asking? What did you want to know, Rajneesh?
So the question primarily came out, after reading various verses, how to relate them to our life experience and improve from there. So what are the learnings? What is it that what is my takeaway from Gita? That was the background on which I had posed this question, and it basically went into a different perspective.
Okay, so what did you learn from this, Rajneesh?
We were basically trying.
To be
We were
very
basically.
precise.
We were basically trying to.
If you're not precise.
We were basically trying to justify our answers and bring everyone to that consensus kind of things.
Mm-hmm. The question has to be precise, because remember, you're talking to people now,
right,
who have been studying this for some time.
Right.
So they can lend itself to multiple interpretations, as you saw. So if you want to say how to practice, then you have to say, and you're saying on multiple verses, then maybe you can start by saying, okay, in this verse, it says this. How do I practice this? And then maybe you would have got some answer out of it.
Right.
Because how do you practice the teachings? If you ask a general question, people tell you study in the morning. But if you want to say, it says, I should love everybody. How can I practice this? Then that's a different question.
Right.
So next time, make it more precise so that the group knows what exactly you're asking. And when they're not answering that, at least then you can say, okay, I don't think you've understood my question.
Got it. Got it.
So I know, I guess you all have already discussed this a lot, how to practice the teachings. They can be taken from two different perspectives. I'm sure all of you in class already know these answers. So I'm fine, we can go ahead, right? You already know to do the 3 yogas, the general things, specific things, such as if you can't love people, at least maintain a working relationship with them. Try to see things from different people's points of view instead of just your own point of view. I mean, how many ways you can practice the teachings is like can be billions, because they are all applications basically of the philosophy. Chitrai, are you new to class? Because I seem to think the first time I've seen this name.
Yes, ma'am. I'm watching from yesterday only.
So this is your first class.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you okay? Because if you have any question or something is not clear, please ask. Okay.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, today, so what has happened in this class is that last class, it was a discussion group class. So it broke up into small groups, discussed, and they're bringing to us so that we can now collectively think of the question and answers. What were the questions and the answers that were discussed, so that, because in Vedanta, the idea is that we must develop our intellect. And that doesn't happen by just listening. We need a lot of thinking. So for that, we do morning study. Now for morning study also, sometimes we can get stuck in some loop. So therefore, when we start discussing it, then as we start saying things, we realize how little we've understood, or how many different perspectives there are on this thing which I have understood. So I hope you all attended, all of you who are here now have attended, and if you didn't attend, please attend the group discussions. All of this is part of sadhana. Okay, not just coming to class is enough. No, we're trying to do something right here. It's not that we are just, we have a mechanical ritual. We listen to a class once a week. We're trying to achieve something here. Okay, Chitra, if you have anything, please bring it up. Can we move to the next question? Does anyone have anything further on this?
Janki ji, can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Salim.
Yeah, so basically, obviously, Vedanta is a Jnana Yoga, right? And it advocates morning study. But somebody...
Stop. Doesn't advocate anything.
No, so basically stresses upon the importance of morning study to develop the intellect, yeah?
No, you can change it in any way, but there are no instructions in Vedanta. Vedanta only tells you matters of fact. Your teacher gives you an instruction. Okay, Vedanta doesn't do that.
Right.
Instructions.
So my question was that somebody who is into bhakti yoga, he might get up in the morning and do japa and mantras and all that. So is he doing something less than somebody who does? Because if I understand correctly in the Bhagavad Gita, I think the Lord says that the bhakti yoga is the uppermost amongst all the yogas, no?
When you quote it, please find out where does it say that and bring us that verse, and then we can discuss it. Since you're claiming the Gita says.
No, okay. So the first part of the question, I mean, somebody who does bhakti yoga or so is he in any way at how to put it, compared to some, so he doesn't do morning study. That's, if you understand my drift.
Okay. So firstly, nothing is good and bad in itself. Okay. Everything is looked at from a certain perspective. So can you answer the question? A boy goes and practices cricket every day. Does he do something good? Can you even answer that question? You can't, right? I have to give you more information. Say he is Sachin Tendulkar and he is practicing for the nationals. Then it's a good thing he's doing. He is trying to avoid his studies. Then it's a bad thing he's doing. So everything is looked at from a certain perspective. That perspective makes it inferior or superior. So far, so good?
Yes, Janki. Yeah.
Okay. So then now, we are assuming that a person wishes to achieve self-development or self-realization when he attends these kind of classes. Okay, that is the perspective from which we are looking. Now, in the attempt of improving ourselves, we have got 3 ways we can do this. We have 3 ways because we have 3 equipments. We can improve ourselves with the help of our body. We can improve ourselves with the help of our mind, meaning our emotions, or we can improve ourselves with the help of our intellect. In these 3 equipments, the body is considered to be the grossest. The mind is subtler and the intellect is subtler. Okay so far?
Yes, Janki. Yeah.
So because what? Why do we say this? Because body can obviously achieve much less than what the intellect can achieve. In other words, with my body, I can pick up something and take it somewhere. But with my intellect, I can design a wheel and a wheelbarrow and take it, and I'll take it much faster. So the body is gross, the mind is subtler, and the intellect is subtlest. Now, I am trying to achieve self-realization. So if I'm a sensible person, what will I do? I will do the maximum I can with the intellect first, because that is going to take me fastest. Then I will use the mind, because that's slightly slower than the intellect. And finally, I use the body. So early morning between 4 and 6 is the time where your intellect is at its sharpest. The environment is conducive to thinking. You are a double thing happening here. Your own intellect is sharp and the environment will support this. Because mostly everybody is fast asleep, so they're not bothering you. And there's no telephone calls, nobody's sending you WhatsApp. 4 to 6 in the morning, nobody's interested in whether you're dead or alive because they are fast asleep. Now, in the most important time of your day, what would you like to do? Would you like to use your body and do social service at that time? Would you like to use your mind and do bhakti yoga at that time? Or would you like to use your intellect and do jnana yoga at that time? Your most efficient means will obviously be the subtlest means. Okay, between going by bullock cart and going by an airplane is the best. So whatever you had, it is all in perspective, okay? If you're talking how fast you're going, how quickly you're going to achieve, then airplane is the quickest method. Now you say, no, but I don't have money for an air ticket. Then you say, okay, please go by bullock cart, because at least that way you're moving. Otherwise, you're just sitting and crying, you don't have the money for an airplane. So early morning, the best use you can make of your time is not in sleep, is not in karma yoga, is not in bhakti yoga, but in jnana yoga. Then when the sun rises, you have the time to do activity, whatever activity you want. Bhakti yoga, you're using your mind, you're sort of free. Whenever you want to do it after your morning studies, and then you want to get down to work, whatever, that is up to you. But that most precious time in your life, what would you like to use it for? Is a decision that you have to take, and hopefully you'll take that decision based on some rational factor. It's not so and so said such and such and so says such and such. It is what sounds reasonable. Which of these sound reasonable? Does it sound reasonable to be doing? Some people get up at 4 o'clock and go for a walk. In fact, people tell me, oh, you say get up at 4. I get up at 4 every day. I go for a walk. Somebody told me Amitabh Bachchan goes to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, damn good that he goes to the gym. But if he wants intellectual development, he's not going to get it out of that.
Janki ji, just a clarification. So, like in the morning when you say that's the time which they call the Brahm Muhurat, right? So, I mean, because I do sadhana, and also they say the best time to do your sadhana or your meditation is at that time. So I think you said the intellect is more conducive at that time, but even the mind, I think, is more receptive because the thoughts have still not started or the world coming into play.
Whatever you do at that time will be better. Whether it is work, it is emotion, it is intellect. Now it's up to you to decide what you want to use that for. Even if you do your work at that time, you will do a much better job. If we took classes at that time, there'll be much better classes. Now the question is, that time is great. What do you want to use that time for?
So is there any scientific study as well that the intellect is more receptive at that time?
Why don't you do it on yourself? Never mind whether it is so for the rest of
No, just asking.
I haven't gone into that. But
Okay.
why do we need to? You get up, do your studies, see the difference, if any. If it isn't, dump the idea.
No, I've already tried it, so I know it. But my only question, I don't do the Jnana Yoga part. I don't study, but I do my sadhana and meditation at that time.
Yeah, sadhana means sadhan. As a method, sadhana is a method for something. Correct? Now, meditation, if you're trying to do it to achieve self-realization, you have to consider whether it is premature or not. You have to know what you're doing. It's not a blind journey here. Somebody said, oh, you have to do sadhana in the morning. What is sadhana?
No, Janki,
sadhana is your study in the morning. Or whatever. Anything can be sadhana means sadhan. Kaun sa sadhan use kar rahe ho? Which tool are you using?
So, Janki ji, I have a guru.
Which tool is your call? It's your life.
So, Janki ji, I have a guru in my life, so I only follow the
Can you all
practice.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I can hear.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear.
Oh, okay, fine. So I don't know if you said anything, Salil, but the last thing I said was, if you have established that it is the best time, then it's up to you to establish what you want to use the best time to achieve what, and whether you will achieve that by whatever method you have set yourself. All these are things you have to decide for yourself. Nobody can take that call for you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so shall we go to the next question?
Janki ji, can I ask a question? Building on to Salil's question.
Is there? No, there was a third question. We finished all the questions from GD?
No, one more to go.
Janki ji, my question was related to the question Salil raised and the answer that you gave. If someone is predominantly emotional, then for that person, is bhakti better in the morning, in the early hours? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear us.
I heard if someone is predominantly emotional, then what?
Is bhakti better for that person in the morning hours? Can't hear. Can't hear.
I heard if someone is predominantly emotional, morning hours. I am jumping to the conclusion that you're saying if someone is predominantly emotional, should they be doing bhakti yoga in the morning hours? Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, no, people are only predominantly emotional. Everybody has an intellect. So the morning hours should be, you use the intellect as much as you can. If you can use 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, begin with that. And then, of course, you can do whatever bhakti you want to do. If anyone's asking the question, normally emotional people are not asking the question, in which case we don't need to say anything.
Okay, so to the extent you can study and reflect, one should do that. To the extent one can do, because the capacity also may be limited. The capacity of this individual who is highly emotional may also be limited, and therefore that for that person to really do Gyan Yoga in the morning or morning reflection may be a struggle. So therefore, what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that even to whatever extent the person can do, he should do that.
It's a struggle for everybody. Who is it not a struggle for? Yes. If he asks, is that person asking this question? So we don't have to tell people unless they're asking the question.
Okay.
I don't know how much you heard, but I said the question only if a person is asking the question, because there is nothing to make a person want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, it doesn't matter what you say, they won't do it. No logic is going to work for them. So, shall we quickly take the last question? Yeah, go ahead, Shilpa.
The question was from Ganeshji, and I adopted it. What do you do when you don't get validation in work or in your personal life? So the answer is, we have chosen the role, therefore other people's validation may or may not be there. We must strive in our role independent of validation. One should objectively see whether we are fulfilling the other person's requirements. We must also go to the people or be with the people who give us the validation, and we must focus on our goal so that it lowers the need for validation.
Okay, good. So what do we do when we don't get validation in work or personal life? We do two things. Number one, we reduce our need for validation. Number two, we go to people who will validate us. Some people will validate us, some people don't validate us. If you want to be praised, go to a person who likes to praise. Normally what we do when I want love, I will go to somebody who doesn't want to give me love.
Janki ji, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. No sound,
I
Janki.
don't know what's happening today.
Yeah, now
Can
we
everybody switch off their videos, please? If everybody switches off their video, maybe we'll have better connection. Okay, thank you. All right, so 2 points. One, don't seek validation. How not to seek validation? Your answer is covered. Be more focused on what you're trying to do in life rather than what other people are saying about what you want to do. Second thing is, if your mind requires validation, and a lot of times our mind does, then you go to people who are capable of giving you that. We tend to go to people who are not capable of giving us that. We'll go to a person who criticizes us all the time and then go to them when you're feeling very vulnerable and you're feeling like you really need something to say, something nice, you go to that person who will criticize you. That's the kind of nonsense we do. So go to a person who you know is positive and who will give you the validation. That's second. And there's a caution. When someone does.
Janki ji, we can't hear.
Bharat, can you check with Janki ji? Should we wait or? Yeah.
Sorry, I have no idea what's happening. So did you all hear everything or what happened here?
Yeah, till there is a caution, we heard 2 points, and then till there is a caution, we were at that point.
Okay. So what is the caution? That when somebody does give us validation, don't cling on to that person. Because, don't like choose ke le lo. Don't do that. Just chill. Say thank you, be pleasant, be happy. That's it. So that's the only caution. Otherwise, yeah, your answer has covered most of it. Covered the points. Whenever you need a validation, try to reduce the need by focusing on work. If you still continue to need it, get it from people who are capable of giving it. And thirdly, the caution, don't cling on to someone who validates you and therefore say more, so don't do stuff like that. It will suffocate that person. Okay, so that